When I think about a pairing that just makes sense, it is bringing the characters of Arcane to New Vegas, and with Jinx being the most unhinged character in the series, the nearly limitless potential of New Vegas could truly let her shine. So today, I'm asking the question, can you beat Fallout New Vegas as Jinx? I wake up in a strange man's home. He tells me I was shot in the head, but somehow I survived. Doc claims that there was no permanent damage, but I would argue that my amygdala was scrambled because my feelings of remorse and empathy are non-existent. I create a character which looks as much like Jinx as I could achieve with New Vegas' limited character creation options. After choosing my special stats, the doctor conducts a psych evaluation, and with my answers ranging from unhinged
Dog
to incredibly violent,
Bandit.
he decided I was in perfect condition to release back into the world. Heading out into the town of Goodsprings, I enter the saloon because consuming alcohol immediately after brain surgery seems like the right thing to do. Inside, I encounter the bar owner Trudy in an argument with a powder ganger named Joe Cobb. In front of everyone, I asked the powder ganger if he wanted help taking over the town. He said we could talk later and ran off. I chase after him, and at the edge of town, we talk again. He tells me to kill a man named Ringo, and before he could finish his sentence, I was at the gas station, grenade launcher in hand, excited to finally blow something up.
Die!
With Ringo blown into bite-sized pieces, I make my way back to Joe. When Joe asks me to extort the people of Goodsprings for supplies, I was finally able to reveal my true plan. I would be extorting the shopkeeper, but I had no intention to share my loot. I whipped out my grenade launcher and showed them a little magic trick where I turned men into a lovely red mist. With that out of the way, I extort Chet repeatedly in order to afford the large amount of expensive ammo I will need for the run. Now it was finally time to leave Goodsprings. The first stop I made was the town of Prim, an area which I originally had no intentions on going to until an NCR officer stopped me and told me it was off limits.
Hey, where the hell do you think you're going? Prim is off limits. It's your ass. Don't say you weren't warned.
Jinx was never a fan of law enforcement, so my defiant nature worked out well here. In Prim, I fought through the convicts and located a captive. He asked me to free him, and I actually fully intended to do so, but when he started running, I think my prey instinct kicked in or something because I blew him up before I could even think about it. I go to the casino in town and locate the robot to try to appoint him as mayor. Unfortunately, I don't have the stats to do so yet, so we'll come back to that soon. I went to the Mojave outpost because my desire to make the people of Prim reliant on a mobile talking microwave took priority over my hatred for the NCR. This mustached man plays hard to get, but eventually he talks to me and sends me off to deal with ants. Like every good pest management service, I grab my sticks of dynamite and chuck them at every ant I see. With that mission complete, I return to Prim and decide who will control the town of people I know nothing about.
Welcome to the Vicky and Van. Law enforcement protocols reinstated, partner. Initializing use of force authorization. Authorization found. Yeah!
With that lengthy side quest out of the way, it was time to go to New Vegas. I went from Goodsprings to Sloan, where yet another person tries to tell me where I can and cannot go.
If you want to get to New Vegas, you're better off heading east from Prim and then looping north. It's a heck of a lot safer.
Thankfully, I already intended to go where he said not to go, so I managed to stay on track. My goal was to take a nice stroll. Things seemed to be going well, but I heard something behind me. I ran as fast as I could, but 3 backshots destroyed me. Next time, I decided to take some drugs to make me invisible, but I must have taken LSD because I thought I was invisible, but the Deathclaws saw me in the same spot as last time. To give my stealth boy the benefit of the doubt, I tried it again, and again they blew my back out. Clearly my clothing was holding me back, so I stripped down and snuck my way through. This did the trick, and I was finally through the valley. I stopped at the Gunrunners to grab some explodey balls and made my way into Freeside. I immediately head to the Atomic Wrangler because everyone knows if you want to make a bunch of money quickly, gambling is a foolproof way to do it. After making enough money for them to kick me out, I had accumulated the caps required to pass the credit check to enter the strip. Upon entering the strip, a robot named Victor came up to me and invited me to meet someone named Mr. House. However, gambling has not failed me yet, and the best approach to winning a large sum of money at a casino is to take all of your winnings and gamble some more. First, I hit up Gamora. I gambled until they kicked me out.
Slots on the strip.
Hey, look who has the hot hands. Here, have something special on the house.
And I promptly took those earnings to the tops. At this point, I was on such a gambling high that I completely forgot that Benny, the man who shot me, was at the tops. I only remembered when I got a large amount of experience and a quest update. But again, my gambling addiction took priority, and I blackjacked so hard they kicked me out. My final stop on this wondrous adventure was the Ultra Lux. In no time, they showed me the door, and with all of my winnings, I was in a great place financially. Feeling fulfilled, I made my way back to the Lucky 38 where Mr. House had requested a meeting. Victor opened up the door and I made my way up to the penthouse to talk to this mysterious man. Much like Silco, House was the one secretly controlling everything from the shadows, and they both need Jinx to do their dirty work.
When you bring the chip to me, I will pay you 4 times the delivery bonus stipulated in your contract. How's that?
House asked me to get the platinum chip from Benny. Coincidentally, I knew exactly where I needed to go to do this. I rolled up to the Tops Casino, and when I entered, they confiscated most of my weapons. Thankfully, I could stuff 23 sticks of dynamite in various orifices to sneak them past security. I walked up to Benny and talked to him.
I hit what I was aiming for. Guess you had brains to spare. Or you just thick-skulled.
Ending the conversation with violence. I was quickly reminded how impractical it was to pull sticks of dynamite out, light them, and throw them while 6 people were shooting at me. After respawning, I took a different approach, throwing the dynamite at the group before engaging in combat to facilitate the process. This worked perfectly, and in no time I was looting the platinum chip to take back to Mr. House. After returning the chip to House, he takes me to the basement and demonstrates the power of his shimmer-boosted army.
The Mark II OS. The M235 missile launcher gives the secure ability to engage.
Upon returning to the surface, he gives me the chip so that I can create a fully armed force under the base of operations for Caesar's Legion. Before doing this, I wanted to take care of some other things I felt were important for immersion purposes. My first stop is to visit the Boomers. On my way, I entered someone's home out of curiosity. To my surprise, the woman in the home was far from welcoming.
What are you doing here? Get out before I blow your head off. Whatever you say, stranger. Go snoop somewhere else and get the fuck out of my house, right now. You think I'm... Hey! You like that?
Her lack of manners upset me, and I naturally responded by throwing dynamite at her and blowing her up. I then left her home and continued along the road to the Boomers. As I moved up the road, a man stopped me, recommending I don't go forward. Instead of listening, I made a bet with the man that I would make it past the Boomers barrage. I completely forgot about this bet for the remainder of the playthrough, but based on the results from attempting to reach the Boomers, I didn't exactly earn the prize in the end. After making it to their fence, I was met with more disrespect from some inbred with a rocket launcher. If that wasn't pointed directly in my face, I would have murdered him without a second thought. Before I could get too heated, a woman, whose eyes couldn't seem to agree where they wanted to look, told me she would take me to their leader. Pearl, the leader of the Boomers, informed me that the Boomers would trust me if I helped out around town. While community service isn't my strong suit, having access to boomer explosives and a bomber later on was very appealing, so I decided to see how I could help. My first stop was the hospital. I figured my complete lack of medical experience and poor communication skills would make me an asset.
These patients were gravely injured. It's not a joking matter.
Unfortunately, the camp doctor disagreed, so I had to move on to the next task. I went to a guy named Jack, but I think people find my split personality disorder off-putting because he also refused my help.
I'll keep my spit to myself, thank you very much. That sounded stupid, didn't it? Damn it.
Then I went to Loyal, someone who finally gave me a reasonable request. He asked me to go repair some satellites, and with a high repair skill, this seemed right up my alley. Well, when I got to the satellites, I discovered I was 5 points off being able to repair them without any additional parts. I decided grabbing more parts was pointless if I could just get 5 more repair with a level up, so I moved on yet again. I went back to Raquel, and her eyes seemed to have come to an agreement and both successfully looked at me when she requested that I go ant hunting. I was basically a pro at ant hunting now, so I didn't listen to anything else she had to say and went on my way. I entered an area below the satellites and began clearing the ants. I started off using a gun because I didn't know if the area would be too enclosed for my grenade rifle. After the first few kills, I pulled out the grenade launcher and fired at an ant nest. Maybe I should have listened to Raquel because the ant nest was explosive and I died instantly. This time I kept my distance and shot a grenade at the nest and survived. But then I got a bit too curious and shot a grenade at the power generators, which caused a massive explosion, killing me instantly yet again. This whole process has been an absolute nightmare. I don't know why I'm doing this. Finally, I cleared out all of the ants, made my way back to the surface, and Raquel gave me the worst attempt at a thank you ever, and then I went on my way. The other task I could do for the boomers was listen to a child tell me about their history. While this seemed like the most boring task ever, I went along with it because I was in too deep at this point. After what felt like hours of being lectured on why these inbred mountain people were superior to everyone else, I finally finished the task. The kid didn't love when I called his people inbred cannibals.
We are certainly not cannibals. We're not savages like some people.
But if he's old enough to teach his people's history, he's old enough to know his origins. I left the depressing schoolhouse, and the past 2 tasks were enough to level me up, meaning I could finally fix the satellite array. I fixed the broken satellites, returned to Loyal, and completing that task was enough to win the boomers' trust. I met with Pearl again, and she directed me to talk to Loyal. Loyal told me about his plan to bring an old bomber up from the bottom of a lake.
Since I was a young man, I've dreamed of raising that lady from the lake and bringing her back to life.
While I'm not sure how the plane that has been underwater for hundreds of years and survived a nuclear apocalypse will be in flying condition, I just go along with it because having the support of a bomber would be pretty great later. Jack has an idea for a device to breathe underwater, but he wants some fancy things to make it work. I instead suggest a hose and some Gorilla Glue would probably be fine, and he likes this idea. With the rebreather in hand, I leave the boomer's base and travel to Nipton. Upon arriving at Nipton, I saw someone who looked a little crazy running towards me, so I chucked down a bunch of landmines just in case. He runs up to me, ranting and raving about winning some sort of lottery.
Help! Are you kidding me? What lottery? The lottery! That's what lottery! Are you stupid?
Feeling my skin itch from the gambling withdrawal, I eagerly watched him approach my mines. Unfortunately, they were too slow to detonate and missed him entirely. However, my cravings had not been satisfied, so I whipped out my grenade launcher and blew him up. I looted his body and... what the fuck is this? A piece of paper? This freak was excited about a piece of paper. Enraged, I walked to the town to get to the bottom of this. I saw a group of Legion soldiers and without a single thought, rapidly fired off multiple grenades, decimating them. So it wasn't until watching the run footage that I noticed the leader of this group was the same person who offered me peaceful passage into the Legion camp, which explains why the Legion despised me so much, but more on that later. I carried on, passing through another Legion camp where they attacked me on sight. I cleared out the camp and made my way to the town of Novak. While I technically had no business there was one thing I wanted to do. I climbed to the top of the iguana, and the man there was not who I expected. Someone named Manny was there, which was annoying. I guess he handles daytime watch, so I waited until night to find the other guard. Boone was now on watch, and I talked to him about his inability to get over his ex, and how he blames everyone but himself for his wife dying from a gunshot wound that came from his gun while he was holding it and firing it. Anyways, I steal his hat so that when I figure out who is responsible, I can put it on and he will shoot whoever I bring outside the lizard. I feel like I'm really good at picking up on people's vibes, and that Manny guy seemed way too nice. I don't trust it. I figured that 100% meant he was guilty, so I got him to follow me to the reptile and put on the hat. Boone blew his head off. Yay, I helped. I excitedly returned to Boone to get 2 bombshell revelations.
That's it then. How did you know? You sick bastard. You better be ready to join her.
Manny was, in fact, a woman, or at least Boone exclusively referred to Manny as she. And apparently, Boone doesn't believe in making decisions off vibes, and he turns hostile. I shoot him and head on my way, shooting a mercenary just outside of town because I still had the murder bug in me. With that mess handled, I was reminded of something, another reason why I felt I should play as Jinx in Fallout New Vegas. At a location called the 188 Trading Post, there is a woman. This woman is a young lesbian with a penchant for fisting. Her name is Veronica. Now, this may be a stretch, but I feel like she kinda worked to play the role of Jinx's lesbian power fisting sister named V. I got to the trading post, and first I talked to the merchant who gave me something essential for the future of this run, a rocket launcher. I then found V, and after a short chat, she asked to come with me on my adventure.
You're the first person I've run across out here that looks like she can really handle herself. There are places I've never been to that'd be too dangerous for just me. What do you think? Maybe we could travel together.
Myself and V head on, putting an end to another side adventure. On our way to the lake, I remembered a glitch that allows you to use ammo on guns it's not meant for. I used the glitch to get a lifetime supply of missiles for my launcher. We reach the lake and find our way to the marker for the bomber. I put on a rebreather and dove into the lovely irradiated lake. Thankfully, the rebreather worked perfectly, so I swam down to the bomber unimpeded. I attached uninflated flotation devices to each wing and swam back to shore. I then used my trigger to deploy the floaties, bringing the strangely well-preserved plane back to the surface. With the plane resurfaced, I returned to the boomers, and after telling them that the job was done, I finished the boomers questline and achieved the idolized status with them. This now means that they can aid me in the future battle for Hoover Dam. Now it was time to continue my work with Mr. House. We traveled to Cottonwood Cove, and this was when it became obvious that the Legion was never going to be friendly towards us again. We had to fight our way through, and it was not easy. I snuck into the camp with my stealthy little rocket launcher and took my first shot. Somehow, despite my incredible stealthiness, the whole camp was alerted to my presence, and I was fired on from all angles. I shot off some rockets, but I was betrayed by my launcher, which caused both of my legs to blow off and the remainder of my body to soar through the sky. I went in with the rocket launcher again, and it ended with me blowing off my arm this time. Next time, I decided a rifle may work better. I was wrong. I went up into the mountains with my launcher and picked off legionaries without them spotting me. I knew it would work as a stealth weapon. While on a roof, I unfortunately miscalculated the angle I needed to fire at and struck the roof, blowing me to pieces yet again. But with the success of that attempt, I had the strat. I used the same techniques, took more care with my aim, and made it through the camp. I killed the gondolier and hopped onto the raft to the fort. Upon arrival at the fort, 2 legionaries opened fire immediately. After some PTSD from my previous accidents with the rocket launcher, I pulled out my 9mm submachine gun and opened fire. Pretty quickly, myself and V shredded through the bouncers, giving us a chance to mentally prepare for the rest of the fort raid. Since the spacing will likely be better for a while, I whip out the old rocket launcher and we head on. We sneak our way up the hill using my stealth rockets to pick off any legionaries along the way. I know stealth and rocket aren't usually heard together, but you can't deny these results. Also, that's genuinely how Jinx is in the show. She stealthily bombs the shit out of everything, so really, I'm just going for a true-to-character playstyle. We enter the fort proper, and of course there are guards at the entrance. That should have been obvious, but apparently thinking ahead isn't my strong suit. Because my rocket launcher is out, and without thinking, I just fire on the legionaries. Somehow, despite the men in front of me becoming a mortician's 1,000-piece puzzle, I only sustain a broken arm and leg. Although I would argue that I have to have a brain injury with my insistence on using rockets 5 feet away from me. After blowing up every enemy and almost V because her outfit looks a bit too similar to the Legion attire, I made it to Caesar's tent. Now, I know that inside the tent is not a large space, and the entrance is guarded, but somehow I expected to be able to sneak into the tent and fire off a rocket to kill Caesar and run outside. And surprisingly, this didn't go quite as badly as you might think. I was, of course, spotted immediately, but nothing was blocking my perfect line of sight with Caesar, so I fired off one rocket and effectively toppled the ancient Roman civilization. We finished off the remaining enemies in the tent and were ready to move on to the true reason we were here. The bunker here holds the army house's building, and I need to go there to boot them up. I entered the building, and to my surprise, the doorman talked to me. For some reason, he wasn't hostile. Another legionary chased V, so it seemed like a perfect time to fire off my rocket. V is a main character, so obviously she won't die from this. Look, she's fine. I opened up the bunker and went inside. The first thing I encountered was House on another computer. He briefed me on the plan, but I couldn't really hear, and I also had the subtitles turned off and refused to read the quest log. So we went in with just my memories on what I had done previous times I've played the game. We made it to the room with a bunch of generators around it. I couldn't remember why, but I knew I had to blow up those generators, so I went to the first 3 and destroyed them. I went up to the final one, fired off my rocket, and along with a large explosion, I got a notification that I had failed my quest. I really didn't care enough to reload, and Jinx was always a loose cannon, so I decided to leave and maybe smooth things over with House. What I failed to realize is House refused to talk to me, and his Securitrons were hostile. This meant House's usefulness had run its course. I opened up the elevator to go down to the human version of House. I opened his little time capsule thing and tried to tell him I could just put him back, but he started yelling at me,
"No! Ruined everything! Exposed!"
which I don't like being yelled at, so I turned his little tube into a coffin using a rocket. House should never have trusted me because if he was like Silco to me, it didn't end well for Silco either. Moving on, we head to the tops to find Yes Man in Benny's old room. The first few attempts at getting through the casino did not go well, but eventually we cleared our way through to Yes Man and asked him to help us. After our talk, someone ran into the room trying to kill me. And I fired off a rocket to deal with them. It shouldn't have been a surprise that the rocket destroyed Yes Man. Regretting my life choices, but avoiding facing the consequences of my actions, I traveled back to the Lucky 38. Thankfully, Yes Man was saved to my OneDrive cloud, so I successfully downloaded him into House's computer. Yes Man told me about the different groups around New Vegas that I needed to decide the fate of. Immediately, 2 could be checked off that list. There was no one left alive in the Tops Casino because of the whole Yes Man incident. And the Legion was essentially non-existent now thanks to our other previously failed mission. That leaves the Omertas, White Gloves, the Khans, and the Brotherhood of Steel. First up was the Omertas. I entered with my launcher, but after a few deaths, remembered one last thing I wanted to do before continuing. I traveled through Bitter Springs and made my way to an irradiated pit called the Devil's Throat. I shot down the freakish abominations crawling around inside the crater, made my way into the truck, and gathered my minigun called the CZ-57 Avenger. This was the final weapon I needed to add to my arsenal for the run. I traveled back to Gamora and opened fire with my new toy. I cleared out the entry and things were going well until this absolute cow shot me down. I cleared the area again, making sure to get every single person in the casino. I stopped for a quick drink while V continued dealing with the sinners. Soon the casino was peaceful and quiet. It would be relaxing if it weren't for the smell of blood and decay. Next up, on my ethnic cleansing adventure, was the White Gloves. Nothing notable happened here. They don't use guns, so between rockets and a minigun, they stood no chance. V was starting to seem homesick, so I thought I would give her a lovely present. We headed over to the Brotherhood's hidden bunker. V talked over the intercom.
I know where you live, Ramos. Open up.
And we were led into the main area. We first go to Elder McNamara and hear him out about what he wants from us. I agreed to help him out, but I just wanted to get to know the people here a bit better first. So I visited the head paladin and the head scribe. Then I saw this super interesting computer that I just so happened to have the means to get into. I ran its program and then went to the computer next to it, and the bunker is about to self-destruct. Who would have thought? I ran out of the bunker, ignoring everyone, but I did hear V power fisting a few of her siblings along the way. We made it outside and... Bye-bye, Brotherhood. V was not impressed.
Clearly you're determined to fight the Brotherhood. Well, you can add my name to your hit list because you're on your own.
But V and Jinx have a complicated relationship, so I'm okay with these results. Alone again, I moved on to the final group, the Cons. I walked through their camp, and I'm glad no one was left alive to warn them about me because I just casually walked into the longhouse, whipped out my rocket launcher, and blasted the leaders of the Cons. With the Mojave cleared of all division, I returned to Yes Man and told him it was time to head to the dam, starting the final mission. With grenades and rockets, I attempted to push past the Legion's forces that I thought I had previously destroyed. I died 4 times trying to get to the first objective. Inside the building, it was time to reinitiate stealth rocket mode. I died another 4 times. Trying to blow up the generator. In the next room, I blew up nearly all of the enemies until my rocket decided to betray me by acting how you would expect a rocket to behave in a narrow hallway and blew me the fuck up. I died one more time before I decided to try out a stealth boy again. It may have helped. The thing is, using a rocket launcher in an echoey hallway tends to create enough noise to rouse suspicion, so I ended up partially fighting my way through regardless. With the dam portion completed, it was time to take out another Legion camp. I rocketed my way through the Legion, making it to the boss, Legate Lanius. Now, at this point, I was well aware of how frail I am, and a face-to-face fight would likely be suicide. Using my trusty rocket launcher, I fired at him. The rocket whizzed right past his face. Thankfully, he just didn't notice somehow, so I free-aimed at him instead, and yeah, I missed again. This was embarrassing, but not as embarrassing as not noticing 2 rockets fly past your face. I stepped closer and fired one more time. The rocket connected, but Lanius must be goddamn Superman because a high-velocity missile to the dome only took out a quarter of his health bar. In a panic, I pulled out my plasma grenades and began chucking them at Lanius and his goons, while trying to flee. But Lanius caught up to me and chopped my leg clean off, killing me. I go again, but this time I lay a nest of frag mines in front of me, pull out the plasma grenades, and fire away. I retreat, pull out my rocket launcher, and, for old time's sakes, blow myself up again. Well, the mines did nothing. But the plasma grenades did seem to hit pretty hard, so that was my weapon of choice. I returned, loosed 3 grenades, and with 1 bar of health left, Lanius thought it would make the most sense to come have a little chat. But clearly he knew what he was doing because he survived, and his gooners then carpet bombed me yet again. I decided drugs would solve my problems. I smoked some meth and threw off my plasma grenades. This worked, and Lanius transformed into a lovely puddle of goo. After clearing out the rest of his pals, I made my way to the front gate. Making an insane entrance, Oliver blew up the easily opened door and marched in to have a chat. I told him that my Rock'em Sock'em robots were right behind him, and he ran to me. I told him that he was about to die.
Figured as much.
And well, that didn't go the way I imagined. The second time I had a new strat. Right after we finished our talk, I bolted behind a wall and I prayed that Yes Man had what it takes to fuck him up. My prayers were answered and the NCR was demolished. I talked to Yes Man, finishing the run and proving that Jinx does have what it takes to beat Fallout New Vegas. Wait, I forgot to ask the boomers for help, so that was for nothing. Anyways, this run was a lot of fun. I always prefer when I can behave as unhinged as possible, and I was surprised with how many connections I could draw between New Vegas and Arcane. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please give the video a like, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye!